I request all of you, please take your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, has arrived at the Vigyan Bhavan, and flagging off ceremony is currently underway. The Minister, sir, is flagging off the S&T Roadshow, showcasing the two groundbreaking innovations developed by CSIR Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute. The first one is the Prima ET11, a 100% electric tractor. Designed specially for small and marginal farmers, this tractor delivers 100 HP of power and boasts a 500 kg hydraulic lifting capacity. Second one is the 100% electrical tiller. Compact yet powerful, this tiller features a 2 kilowatt base power, a 3-time cultivator, a water pump, and a trolley with a seat capacity of nearly 500 kgs. It makes it an efficient companion for the small farmers. These innovations are a testament to India's commitment to green technology, energy efficiency, and farmer empowerment. As the S&T Roadshow embarks on its grand journey, it will traverse across multiple CSIR institutes, covering a vast expanse of India, from New Delhi to Jammu, Palampur, Ludhiana, Roorkee, Lucknow, Bhopal, Nagpur, Hyderabad, Mysore, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and finally Durgapur, West Bengal. This extensive route symbolizes a nationwide commitment to technological advancements in agriculture, sustainability, and rural environment. The flag-off ceremony is being going on, so we'll wait for the Honorable Minister to please come on the dais. Great honor. We request everyone to kindly please be seated. With great honor, we welcome the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji. I request everyone to kindly please be seated. Please ensure that your mobile phones are on the silent mode. Let us all rise and extend a warm round of applause as he makes his way into the hall on the dais. With great honor, we welcome Honorable Minister of Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, sir. A warm round of applause as he makes his way into the hall on the dais. His leadership and vision have been instrumental in advancing science and technology. We are privileged to have him with us today. Namaskar, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all the esteemed guests, dignitaries, and participants. On this special occasion of National Science Day, we gather to celebrate innovation, discovery, and the spirit of scientific excellence. It is indeed an honor to have all the dignitaries on the dais with us for this very important event. We are deeply honored by the gracious presence of respected Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Minister of State, Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Professor Ajay Kumar Sood sir, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President, Indian National Science Academy and former Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, Dr. V. Narayanan, Secretary, Department of Space, Shri Vaidya Rajesh Kotecha, Secretary, Ayush, Dr. Rajesh S. Gokhale, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Dr. N. Kalai Selvi, Director General, CSIR and Secretary, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, and Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Head, National Council for Science and Technology Communication Division, DST. I would now request Professor Abhay Karandikar, sir, to present a potted plant to Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Minister of Science and Technology. Would request Karandikar, sir, to present a potted plant to Professor Ajay Kumar Sood. Would request Karandikar, sir, to present a potted plant to Professor Ashutosh Sharma. I would now request Dr. Rashmi Sharma to present a potted plant to Dr. V. Narayanan, Secretary, Department of Space. Would request Rashmi Sharma to present a potted plant to Shri Vaidya Rajesh Kotecha ji. Would request Rashmi Sharma to present a potted plant to Rajesh Gokhale. I would request Dr. Rashmi Sharma to present a potted plant to N. Kalai Selvi ji. I would again request Dr. Rashmi Sharma to present a potted plant to Professor Abhay Karandikar. I would now request Dr. Brijesh Pandey, Executive Director, INSA, to present a potted plant to Dr. Rashmi Sharma, ma'am. To officially begin our proceedings, I now invite Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, to deliver the welcome address.
Honorable Union Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Professor Ajay Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Rajesh Gokhale, Dr. Kalai Selvi, Dr. Narayanan, all the distinguished guests, students from school, colleges, and universities, my colleagues from the Ministry of Science and Technologies and other ministries, all those who have joined in physical and virtual mode, officials of state S&T councils, and the distinguished speakers of the day today, Shri Shashi Shekhar Vempati and Professor Sanjay Bihari. Let me begin, first of all, by extending my warm greetings to the National Science Day, which, as all of you know, that is celebrated each year to commemorate the path-breaking discovery of Raman effect, which actually placed our country on the global scientific map. Today's theme is empowering Indian youth for global leadership in science and innovation for VIKSIT Bharat. As all of you know that India has the largest young population. Our median age is approximately 28 years and 65% of our population is below the age of 35 years. In fact, only a very small percentage of population, like 7% or so, is above 65 years of age. And given this, young country, we have a significant potential to not only become a VIKSIT Bharat as per the Honorable Prime Minister's vision by 2047, but also to provide a global leadership in science and innovation. there are no dearth of opportunities for youth today in science and technology, and the Government of India is committed to nurture the young talent through several initiatives that have been launched, either in the case of research fellowships or in the case of innovations and entrepreneurships. Through various funding initiatives and through various mentorship programs, we are fostering a robust ecosystem that has encouraged our young innovators to develop innovative solutions for transforming the scientific landscape of our country. During today's proceedings, you will not only hear the inspiring lectures from Professor Ashutosh Sharma, but also a lecture on artificial intelligence and a lecture by Professor Sanjay Bihari. As we celebrate the National Science Day, let us reaffirm our commitment to create a conducive environment where science and technology are not just academic pursuits, but become the powerful tool for the nation building. I urge all of you to work together to inspire the young generations to think critically and address the global challenges and contribute to achieving our country a global scientific leadership. All my young friends, the future of our country and the goal of attaining the VIKSIT Bharat lies in your hands, and I hope that all of you will rise to this occasion. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to all of you on the National Science Day. Let this day be a catalyst for inspiration, discovery, and transformations. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for that insightful welcome address. Your words have set the perfect tone for today's event. Now it is my proud privilege to request Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, to please share his thoughts.
Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, our Honorable Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, and secretaries to the departments, Government of India, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Dr. V. Narayanan, Dr. Kotecha, Dr. Gokhale, Dr. Kalai Selvi, distinguished guests, young students, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me greet you all on this National Science Day. The vision of VIKSIT Bharat, as envisaged by our Honorable Prime Minister, is a shared aspiration fueled by collective thoughts and efforts of all Indian citizens, regardless of their societal, sectoral, or age group affiliations. However, it is our youth who possess the greatest potential to transform the vision and dreams into reality, propelling us towards a $5 trillion economy or more by 2047. The theme of today's day, empowering Indian youth for global leadership in science and innovation for VIKSIT Bharat, is so very apt because, as mentioned by Professor Karandikar, approximately 65 to 67% of India's population falls within the working age group. And in next 5 years, India's working age population is expected to exceed about 1 billion. In the coming decade, India is forecasted to contribute about 25% of the international global workforce. And given this immense potential, it is crucial that we carefully nurture and develop our human resources. In today's rapidly evolving technology landscape, it is imperative for the youth to be upskilled in contemporary technologies, to remain competitive and relevant. These technologies, they are changing by the day. It could be quantum today, it could be something else tomorrow, and AI is on everyone's agenda. The educational landscape is shifting from a single disciplinary focus to a multidisciplinary approach, recognizing the interconnectedness of various fields and the necessity for holistic problem-solving strategies. For example, advancements in AI now draws from various fields such as computer science, mathematics, cognitive psychology, neuroscience, and so on. Similarly, sustainable development efforts integrate insights from environmental science, economics, and social sciences. Technological advancements and the dynamic nature of industries demand a workforce that is adaptable and proficient in new skills. We must therefore invest in world-class education that emphasizes STEM disciplines, foster a culture of research and innovation, and create an ecosystem that encourages interdisciplinary collaboration, such as being done with Anusandhan National Research Foundation. We have seen entrepreneurship in India has been a transformative force which is driving innovation, job creation, and economic growth. The Indian startup ecosystem, as you all know, is growing. We have almost 1.6 lakh startups and almost 190 plus unicorns, making India the third largest startup ecosystem globally. This growth has significantly contributed to the country's economic progress, accounting to about 10 to 15% of GDP share between financial year 16 and 24, and creating almost 17 lakh jobs. Today, we celebrate National Science Day, commemorating C.V. Raman's groundbreaking discovery that earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1930. But this day is more than a tribute to his achievement. It is a beacon for spreading scientific awareness, recognizing contributions to science, and inspiring innovations among our youth. We may note that the Raman effect, discovered as a breakthrough in basic sciences, has turned into a very powerful technology in disease diagnosis, sensitive explosive detectors, semiconductor industry, and so on, telling us that basic science of today could be the technology of future, tomorrow, and it should be nurtured with an eye on its use in disruptive technologies. By empowering our young minds in science and innovation, we aim not only to elevate India's global standing, but also to equip future generations with the skills and knowledge to tackle the complex challenges of the 21st century. And in all this, we have to see that our youth remain excited and imbibe the science culture in their daily life. So the recent announcement by Honorable Prime Minister, the suggestion which he gave, one day as a scientist, I think it's an extraordinarily innovative concept which we should see how we can empower our youth to imbibe the spirit of science. And one day as a scientist can go a long way in really nurturing the spirit of science and innovation in our youth. So with this, once again, my greetings on this Science Day, and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful remarks. Your guidance in advancing India's scientific and technological landscape is invaluable. Now we move to a significant segment of today's events, the releases and the felicitation ceremony. I would request the Honorable Minister, sir, to kindly do the honors. To begin this prestigious segment, we take pride in felicitating Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President of the Indian National Science Academy and former Secretary DST. A visionary leader, a distinguished scientist, Professor Sharma has made pioneering contributions to nanoscience, materials engineering, and sustainability. Adding to his long list of achievements, he has now been selected for one of India's most prestigious civilian awards, the Padma Shri. This recognition is a testament to his extraordinary contributions to science, technology, and national development. To honor his accomplishments, I would like to request Honorable Minister Sir to kindly felicitate Professor Ashutosh Sharma with a token of appreciation. Thank you, sir. Next, we have the release of the compendium of selected projects at the 31st National Children's Science Congress, a celebration of the young scientific minds of our nation. I would request Dr. Prabhat from DST to kindly join us on the stage. National Children's Science Congress provides a dynamic platform for children to showcase their creativity, innovation, and problem-solving abilities through the application of scientific methods. I would request Honorable Minister Sir to kindly release the compendium. Congratulations to all the young innovators for their contributions in shaping a better future through science and technology. Next, we have the launch of the new initiative to support electric vehicle startups, Evolutions. For the launch, I would request Dr. Anita Gupta, Head Climate, Energy and Sustainable Technologies Division, DST, Mr. Suresh Babu Mutanna, Program Officer, Electric Mobility, DST, Dr. Hanif Qureshi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General, and Ms. Pooja Sharma, Director of Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India, to please join us on the stage. I would request the Honorable Minister, Sir, to kindly launch the Evolutions. Electric Vehicle Solutions, led by startups, is an exclusive initiative by DST to accelerate EV component manufacturing in India. In collaboration with Ministry of Heavy Industry and Automotive Component Manufacturing Association of India, this program will support 50 startups with funding of up to Rs 50 lakhs through select incubators. Evolutions align with India's 30% EV target of 2030, fostering Atmanirbhar Bharat and VIKSIT Bharat. Thank you, sir. Next, we have the inauguration of Inclusive Technology Business Incubators. For the launch, I would request Dr. Praveen Roy, Head Technology Translation and Innovation Division, DST, and Dr. Chandrasekhar Yadav from DST to please join us on the stage. I would request Honorable Minister, Sir, to kindly inaugurate the 9 inclusive technology business incubators set up in different parts of the country. Got it. With a focus on cutting-edge technologies and inclusive growth, ITBIs will play a crucial role in strengthening India's startup ecosystem and driving progress towards Atmanirbhar Bharat and VIKSIT Bharat. I would request the representatives from various ITBIs to please receive their mementos. Dr. B.S. Sahai, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Jammu. Professor Saurabh Varshney, Executive Director and CEO, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Patna. Dr. Kalidas Murugavel, Principal, National Engineering College, Tamil Nadu. Professor Narayan Chandra, Vice Chancellor, Assam Downtown University, Guwahati. Professor M.B. Chetty, Vice Chancellor, Sanskriti University, Mathura. Professor Tej Pratap, Vice Chancellor, Sri Sri University, Cuttack, Odisha. Professor Errol D'Souza, Vice Chancellor, Gandhi Institute of Technology and Management, Visakhapatnam. Professor Karunesh Saxena, Vice Chancellor, Sangam University, Rajasthan. Dr. Senthil Kumar, Principal, Sona Engineering College, Tamil Nadu. Congratulations to all the selected ITBIs. Next, we have the felicitation of universities under promotion of university research and scientific excellence program named PERSE. For the felicitation, I would request Dr. Pratishtha Pandey, Head R&D Infrastructure Division, DST, and Dr. Shiv Prasad from DST to join us on the stage. PERSE has propelled research in high-impact areas such as high-yield technologies, cancer research, climate change, etc. In 2024, 9 more universities have been identified for support, addressing diverse scientific themes with an investment of nearly 74 CR. Today, on this occasion, we take immense pride to felicitate the Vice Chancellors of these universities. I would request Honorable Minister, Sir, to please raise the curtain. Minister, Sir, will present the memento to the 9 Vice Chancellors of the 9 universities. Professor Kameshwar Nath Singh from Central University of South Bihar. Professor M. Krishnan from Central University of Tamil Nadu. Professor Alok Kumar from Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, Chhattisgarh. Professor MMS Rauthan, Hemwati Nandan Baguna, Garhwal University, Uttarakhand. Professor Rajbir Singh from Maharshi Dayanand University, Rohtak. Professor Rajesh Kumar Bhatia from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh. Dr. Prashant S. Bukhare from Rashtra Sant Tukdoji Maharaj, Nagpur University, Maharashtra. Professor Shambhunath Singh from Tezpur University, Assam. Professor Vandana Singh, Veer Bahadur Singh, Purvanchal University, Uttar Pradesh. Thank you, sir. Congratulations to all the honored Vice Chancellors. Next, we have the Academia Industry MOU for Green Corrosion Inhibitor from Manure. For this, I would request Professor Kalol Mondal from IIT Kanpur, Mr. Krunal Jagtab, CEO of HAB Biomass Private Limited from HAB Biomass Private Limited, and Dr. Pankaj Singh Chauhan from DST to join us on the stage. DST continues to champion sustainable innovation, a cost-effective, eco-friendly corrosion inhibitor developed by Professor Kalol Mondal from Department of Material Science and Engineering, IIT Kanpur, with support from Shri Cell DST, stands as a testament to this commitment. We are witnessing the signing of the significant MOU between IIT Kanpur and HAB Biomass Private Limited. This MOU is now being exchanged in the esteemed presence of Honorable Minister, marking yet another milestone in our journey towards sustainable technology advancements. Thank you, sir. Next, we have the technology transfer of genetically modified cotton resistant to pink bollworms and cotton leafworms. For this, I would request Dr. Ajit Kumar Shasne, Director, CSIR, NBRI, Dr. Pradyuman Kumar Singh, Chief Scientist, CSIR, NBRI, Dr. Manish Bhoyer, Senior Scientist, CSIR, NBRI, Dr. Ashwin Kashikar, GM, Ankur Seeds, and Dr. Manoj Falak, GM, Ankur Seeds, to join us on stage. CSIR, National Botanical Research Institute, has developed a genetically modified cotton variety that exhibits complete resistance to pink bollworms and cotton leafworms. Today, we are witnessing the landmark MOU between Ankur Seeds Private Limited, Nagpur, and CSIR NBRI to facilitate the commercialization and large-scale adoption of this breakthrough technology. The MOU is now being exchanged in the presence of Honorable Minister, sir. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to a very special moment in today's program. It is my honor to invite our esteemed chief guest, the Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge for Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, to deliver his special address. Sir, please.
Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Ajay Sood, Padam Shri, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Chairman ISRO and Secretary Department of Space, Dr. V. Narayanan, Director General CSIR, Dr. N. Kalai Selvi, Secretary, Ministry of Ayush, Dr. Kotecha, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Dr. Rajesh Gokhale, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Vice Chancellors, senior faculty members representing different institutions across the country, senior officers from the Government of India, members of the scientific fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I have to congratulate you all and also exchange greetings on the National Science Day. And as was being said, it was 78 years ago that the Raman effect came to be known to the world. And we have been consecutively every year observing this day as the National Science Day to commemorate the great work done by C.V. Raman and also to celebrate his legacy. But this year, this day comes with a difference. And that is, I think, for the first time, the Prime Minister of India has made an appeal to the common citizenry to celebrate it in much the same fashion as they celebrate any other festival in this country. And he's made a special mention of it. And he made a special mention of it in his monthly Man Ki Baat broadcast, imploring upon each one of us to at least feel like a scientist, if not a scientist, at least a student of scientists or a learner of a scientist. And when Prime Minister says that, this amounts to the declaration of intent of the government in place. And in other words, this is also a reflection of the high priority that the political dispensation of this country is currently giving to science, innovation, and everything else associated with this. And I think I will not be exaggerating when I say that over the last 10 years, the manner in which the science, innovation, research, startups have been promoted has actually enabled the different ministries and departments of science in the government sector to occupy a center stage, which rarely but happened before. Most of the science departments and even the science secretaries were hardly known in the corridor circles of the central government. It's no longer so. And again, it's primarily because the Prime Minister makes a personal outreach to the members, to the officials, to the experts working in this department. And to my mind, if you sum up the last 10 years, I would say it has happened in three ways. A, there's a virtual resurgence of the science ministries and departments in the government sector, which I was saying a few moments ago, was rarely but seen earlier. Secondly, there has been a quantum leap in the outcomes, which has been talked about earlier, which I may refer to a moment later. And thirdly, there's a wider recognition of the work being done by these departments, by these ministries, and by the scientific fraternity at large. Recognition, both domestically as well as overseas and abroad. And this has not happened simply overnight. There's been a tremendous amount of hard work put in behind that. And we never had dearth of talent in this country, or potential in this country, or passion in this country, or commitment in this country, or imaginative, innovative creativity in this country. Possibly what we lacked was an enabling milieu which is expected from the policymakers and which has happened after 2014. And the world is today acknowledging this. And since all of us like good researchers and students of science, have learned not to talk without figures or without statistics or evidence. You pick up any sector, you pick up space. This morning we were having a bilateral with the Space Commissioner from the European Union, and others there would wear me out what he said. He said the next century, this current century or 21st century, is going to be the century of space and the century of India occupying this space. And that's why that's happened because we have succeeded in proving to the world what we could do through mission after mission. So it's Chandrayaan 3, whether it's the solar mission, whether it's the very recent SpaceX, and no longer in a position to, no longer constrained to pick up leads from others, but in a position to offer cues to others. And that has now begun to be acknowledged very candidly by those reaching out to us, as I was citing the example of the meeting this morning. If you take the example of the sector of biotechnology, a lesser-known department thrown into a remote corner of an ITBP office. If you ask Rajesh Gokhale what is his address, he will have to write care of ITBP. That was the kind of scant priority being accorded by the earlier governments. But suddenly this department has been pulled out from that backyard with the personal indulgence of Prime Minister Modi. He launched Mission Suraksha, and on day-to-day basis he was monitoring the progress in the trials of vaccine. And when you have that kind of an abundant sport, the confidence, the motivation also gets multiplied manifold. And the result is that his team came out with the first ever DNA vaccine and gifted it to the world. And I always, being someone associated with the world of medicine, I always take fancy in telling the youngsters in whatever institutions I go, because the generations have changed. It's not easy for them, for these teenagers and students of today, what it means to be a pioneer in vaccine. Because my generation has gone through a transition phase where India was not taken seriously even for curative healthcare, even for the therapeutic healthcare. So if one felt sick, one waited to get worsened before seeing a doctor. If you got well, ₹5 ka prasad chadha diya. If you didn't get well, apna karma. So you had homemade remedies and placebos. The same country today, which was not taken seriously by the world for its therapeutic or curative healthcare, is today being acknowledged as a leader in preventive healthcare. That's a huge, huge departure. And I'm sure any medical professional of my generation would be able to appreciate that transition. It's virtually a 360-degree change. And now it's almost one after the other series of vaccines, HPV, so on, so forth. If you go to earth sciences, the other day I was telling Dr. Ravichandran, I didn't find him today, maybe he's busy there. I said till a few years ago, if you did a survey in this capital city of Delhi, just took a perform and asked the passers-by, where on earth is the Department of Earth Science? I'm sure many would fumble answering that. Today, it has been virtually pulled out of that oblivion. Again, because Prime Minister, realizing this not once, but twice consecutively, in his Independence Day address, referred to deep sea mission. He did that in 2023, 15th August. He again did that in 2024. I'm not sure how many people would have actually realized that, but the very fact that he was saying so meant, A, that the government was giving it a priority. It was a flagship priority for government. And B, it could generate curiosity in the listener to actually try to dig out, find out, whether from your mobile or other source, what after all is deep sea mission or deep sea venture. And today, we are among the first few countries who have ventured into the ocean wealth, which is going to add value to the future growth story. If you look at CSIR, Dr. Kalai Selvi, the first empress of this huge empire. Earlier on, we mostly had emperors, being the first lady DG. And she has performed what many emperors couldn't have done. In the last few years, we have the success stories like Aroma Mission, which again found mention in Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat. And India, I was saying the other day, has given, through this mission, a new genre of agri-startups. And not only that, more importantly, which I hope we would be able to also carry to most of the youngsters, that you don't have to have a big PhD. Actually, the youngsters get mesmerized, get imposed when they see such a highly literate platform. They say, oh, I have to be someone as educated as Dr. Kalai Selvi, someone as scientific a brain as Padma Shri Ashutosh to be a startup. But through this, I have to compliment you. You have exploded that myth. Many of your successful lavender startups are not even graduates. And that is the magic of a true startup, a sustainable startup. In fact, they have also managed, they have also motivated, or may I say committed the sin of getting some of the corporate boys resign their job and get back into them. And that is our exclusive domain, because we had confined ourselves mostly to IT because we didn't realize what was our exclusive sector. That is one that you have brought to the world. The floriculture mission. The other day I came across, I remember when you started this, I think from Palampur and Jammu and 203, the directors told me, because out of my own curiosity, I try to, for my own learnings. So they said that's very difficult, nobody taking it up. So they got hold of a boy whose family was engaged in this flower business, a Sikh boy from Punjab. And his father had at that time undergone some training in flower decoration from Japan some 50 years ago. And therefore he used to prepare bouquets for the government functions in those times when the event managers were not so rampant. So we caught hold of that boy. He privately confessed to some of the members of my team कि सर मुझे अकेला जा रहा है लेकिन इससे बड़ा नुकसान ये होगा मेरा कि मेरी शादी नहीं होगी. Suddenly the boy is now turned into a big entrepreneur, supplying bouquets on demand for different kind of events. He's making a big fortune. And just 6 months back, he came to look me up with a wedding card. And I recall, I said, तू तो कहता था तेरी फूलों के कारण शादी नहीं होगी, अब तो फूलों की सेज पर दुल्हन आ रही है. So what the point is that these are our exclusive domains, and through scientific evidence we can carry across convincingly the merit of these. No Western literature would help doing that. No Western publication would help doing that. As I always say, Indian solutions for Indian remedies, Indian treatment for Indian patients, and Indian data for Indian problems. So you can't cite a paper from Nature to convince somebody that floriculture or home mission, what it's all about. You have to have your own innovative communication. And again, the intent of the government is so clear that we are today enjoying the freedom of doing what we think would be in the right direction. And I think if you just look at the last few months, the vote of account of this government, which happened just before the election, vote of account, I don't know how many in this room, but most of those in public life would understand, is meant to be just a working budget, because the Actual budget is thought to be prerogative of the incoming government, so the outgoing government does not do it. They just present a calm-kaji budget. But and mostly, the political governments are fond of announcing freebies and sewing machines and laptops. But did you notice the vote of account of the Modi government? Weeks before election, what did it mention? It mentioned Bharat modular reactors. It mentioned space startups and said, when we come back, we'll give viability fund. It mentioned National Research Foundation and said, when we come back, we'll allocate separate budget for this. It requires tremendous courage, tremendous conviction, tremendous consistency on the part of a political government. And that is what we are witnessing. And soon after, the government came in for the third time, which is fondly described as Modi 3.0. The most important decision in the first 100 days was A, 50,000 crore allocation for National Research Foundation, B, 1,000 crore for Space Startup Viability Fund, Bio E3 policy that Rajesh was struggling for so many months and years, and Mission Mausam. So all these 4 or 5 decisions were part of the first 100 days. So you can understand how much of patronage we have at our disposal. Now coming to this year's theme, which Abhay was generous enough to discuss with me and also take my inputs, because usually the secretaries and the experts decide the themes because the minister is supposed to only cut the ribbon and light the lamp, not do much of a thinking. But I'm glad that he took me into confidence. He gave 2 or 3 themes, and I said, if we coin it like this, it will encompass everything. So we have a very wholesome theme for the National Science Day today, which is that empowering Indian youth for global leadership in science and innovation for VIKSIT Bharat. So it has both the aspects. Empowerment of the youth, who are going to be makers of the India tomorrow, preparing them for a larger global role, and at the same time, losing not the context of carrying their nation, their motherland, to the pedestal that has been envisaged for them. And therefore, this theme simultaneously addresses A, youth empowerment, B, youth capacity building, C, youth enabling for a global role, and 4, youth preparation to be the architects of India 2047. And as I said, this is one of the better times happening for science, if the best may come soon. From fragile 5, we have come to first 5. Startups was time and again being mentioned, from 350, 400 to 1.75, and rank 3. Publications, 1,91,590, rank 4. But what is more important, I would like to share with you, because I'm sure it's a matter of delight for all of us connected with the scientific fraternity, that the future projections indicate that we would overcome US in number of publications in the next 4 years by 2029. And of course, when these are some of the lesser cited facts, because they are more pertaining to the scientific working, may not be of much interest to others, but they matter to us. And our patent filing is 64,480, but again, what is more important, as I said in the case of publications, is that 55.2%, because I was working out these statistics, 55.2% of patents are resident patents. I hope you will understand that you will be explaining to your morning walkers who say, "Arey sahab, kya kiya patent kiya? तो हरगोविंद खुराना वहाँ गया तब हुआ ना, चंद्रशेखर वहाँ गया तब हुआ, हमने क्या दिया?" This is totally indigenous. They didn't go out to file a patent. So more than 55% of the rank 6, we are ranking 6 in patent filing, but majority of them have lived in India, worked in India, innovated in India, and then filed a patent, didn't make use of outside resources, as might have been the case a few decades ago, which became a butt of joke for all of us. If anybody made an achievement in the scientific field, they would say, "Okay, kya kiya to kya kiya? America jaake hi kiya na, yahan to kuch nahi hua." So you have something to tell your children, the next generation. Hey, look, we have everything here to offer. And another fascinating statistics, which I think could be a good media tagline as well. This year, every year at the 31st of December, they do a kind of a statistics survey of the top world scientists. So ending 31st December 2024, among the top 2% of the world scientists, as many as 5,352 were found to be Indians. That is something which was unimaginable till a few years ago, and that is something which the cynics may refuse to believe even today. But the figures speak for themselves. And if you just go currently, because I have tried to put across a few of the things which are not often talked about, sorry for deviating from the talking points given to me, but then I wouldn't have been able to share. If you see this year's budget, and I'll just take 1 minute to give you important figures. Some of the students can also take that. The DST, which is hosting this program, Professor Aves, has recorded 926% rise in budget in the last 10 years. In 2013 to 14, it was rupees 2,777 crore. This year's budget presented 2 months back, it was 28,509 crore. The DSIR, headed by Dr. Kalai Selvi, 2013-14, the budget was 2,013 crore, only 2,013. Today, it is 6,658 crore, plus all the private participation. The Department of Space in 2013-14 was rupees 5,615. It has recorded a rise of 138.9%, going up to 13,416 crore. The figures have multiplied. And plus, a huge investment from the private sector because of these space reforms. That's not been included. So if you take the whole pool, it must have gone. And that's the reason why space economy, which was just minimal, is today $8 billion US, and the future projections predict that we will be going up 5 times in the next 7-8 years to almost 44-45 billion. Department of Atomic Energy in 2013-14 was 13,879 crore. Today it has gone up many times, almost 170%, to 37,483 crore. And again, the budget announces that we are opening up to the private sector. And also, the Prime Minister reiterated that in one of his later addresses. And there also you'll have additional pool from the private sector. Department of Biotechnology, 2013-14 was 1,485 crore. Today it is 3,447 crore. And added to all this is the National Research Foundation, which the government has allocated 5,000 crore. But much more would be happening from the non-government sources, because the non-government sources incorporate almost 60 to 70% of this. And therefore, as I said, this is one of the better times happening. There's also a successful effort in synergizing all the institutions within the science and departments and science ministry, and also across that, among the education institutions, whether that be the IITs, NITs, IAS, and across the domains, whether it's artificial intelligence, green energy, climate, cyber. Till a few years ago, most of the world thought that Indians were not capable of discussing climate. When you talked of climate, वो इतना ही था कि मौसम का क्या हाल है, and that too दूर दूर तक छींटे पड़ेंगे, आमतौर मौसम खुश्क रहेगा. Even that was a butt of joke. And I had the courage to say that on the 150th commemoration. The Honorable Prime Minister was also there. Today we have now arrangement in forecast, and people literally see their WhatsApp in the watch during the heavy downpour in Mumbai, Barsat, to decide whether to carry the umbrella or not. And that has given us So we are, and now we are talking of climate concerns, we are laying down targets, net zero 270, 50% 230, and from women participation, we have gone up to women-led. I think the the better part of the compliment is deserved by Dr. Narayanan and his team. They are no longer only encouraging women, as DST is still doing through programs like Jigyasa Vigyan Jyoti. They are ready to bow down and be led by women. And the Aditya mission is being led by Nijar. She's from Tamil Nadu. And Chandrayaan second head is Kalpana. So they have given up. They no longer need these programs. And that's why they are not adopting Abhay's program. They're already way ahead, and they have shown the way. But nevertheless, we have all such programs still very actively being pursued in the DST, and the PERS program, where 82 universities have already funded, and today, as you saw, 9 more universities being funded through PERS program at an amount of rupees 75 crore, and the IT, the TBIs, Inclusive Technology Business Incubators, you just now saw, 9 new have been included today with a focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And as usual, Dr. Kalai Selvi is always electrically charged. She gave me the privilege of flagging off an electric vehicle. So that is all done to commemorate the National Science Day today. And before I end, I think one suggestion I could add to this, that next year onwards, we could change the actually celebration of the National Science Day. Although this room is called Vigyan Bhavan, but that doesn't mean that it is only meant for science. And as Prime Minister once suggested, and we actually followed in the other departments, most of our conferences we are holding around the country, in ARPG, DOPT, we could hold a separate venue each year for holding the national level function of National Science Day, so that these ladies and gentlemen could also have the opportunity of visiting other parts of country besides Vigyan Bhavan. And that will also help us, carry science to different parts, because it does make a difference. It does make a difference because in North India, the space sector has generated interest in the last 5-7 years, because I only suggested that time to, I think Dr. Radhakrishnan was there, I said we have to move out from South. And the first 2 new centers we opened were in Northeast, Agartala and IT, and the Teaching Space Technology Center with post-graduation, etc., in Central University, Jammu. And suddenly you started getting startups from here. So we would then, in consultation with all these gentlemen and gentle ladies sitting on the stage, decide where do we meet next time, this year, and on this day. And that, I think, would also help us live up to the resolve of dedicating this National Science Day to the youth of this country, who are actually going to be there around to celebrate the National Science Day on 2047. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, sir, for your inspiring and insightful address. Your leadership and vision in advancing science and technology in India will surely guide us in future. With this, we bring our session to the close. We are deeply grateful to all the dignitaries on the dais for their presence and contributions to today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाहे तव जय गाथा। जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे, जय 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 हे।
Thank you, sir. I request all of you, please, kindly be seated. We are having the National Science Day lectures now. Please be seated. I request all of you, please be seated. We are having the lectures now. Please kindly be seated. Please don't move out of the hall. May I request the organizers to please close the door. ये ना उनका चाहिए, उनका बोल लो, उनका तो बोल चुके हैं ना प्रेजेंटेशन में हो गया था या ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स मेरे पास नहीं Please kindly be seated. साइटेशन ये जो दिया हुआ है ना, ये मेरे पास है ना। हाँ, मैं पढ़ूंगी, मैं पढ़ूंगी। हाँ हाँ हाँ, ये संजय बिहारी सर की, हाँ, क्योंकि थोड़ा ही रखा है, वो तो बहुत लंबा था। रवि पहले एआई वाला है, पहले एआई है ना। हाँ, बमक लगा रहे थे वो वहाँ पे। या वीडियो लगा दो। I request all of you to please be seated. We are having the lunch after the lectures. Okay. I cannot scold actually. I cannot scold. वही मैं सोच रही हूँ कॉलेज होती तो डांट देती थी nobody of course. वो आएंगे तभी स्टार्ट होगा, ऐसा तो नहीं होगा। May I have your attention, please? Please kindly be seated. I request all of you to please take your seats. सर आ गए ना वही तो सर यहीं से नहीं बिठाएंगे I request all of you to please take your seats. We are having the National Science Day lectures now. Kindly take your seats, please. Please settle down. Kindly be seated, please. We are having the National Science Day lectures now. I request all of you to kindly be seated. May I please request the organizers to help the people get settled down? Kindly take your seats, please.
Let me
Yes,
speak.
sir.
Hello. Everybody, please sit down. If you don't sit down, we will start the program. Hello. Please take your seat very quickly because they are going to evict us if we don't take the seat now. Please. We got exciting program ahead of us. Please take your seats. थोड़ा forcefully बोलना पड़ता है मैं बोला if you don't sit down we're mounting a machine gun everybody found standing after a minute there is going to be a machine gun here please take your seat quickly yeah Brajesh ji, Brajesh ji, please ask everybody to sit down. May I ask the two speakers for the next session? Professor Shri Shashi Vampati ji and Professor Sanjay Bihari to please come on dais and be seated there. What are the aspects that come to mind when we talk about artificial intelligence? A, that this is all pervasive, which means it's going to impact every aspect of our life. Nothing would be untouched. Nothing, zero. So which means that we have to be fully prepared to meet the challenges of that AI-driven future. Second is that this has to be India-centric. Clearly, what it means is people, the nations and societies that are working on AI, they are working on it because they have no young people to work. So therefore, you need machines to do work in order to do growth, to do economic growth. But in India, the problem is opposite. So we need to create new opportunities using the same technology, not to displace people, not to replace people, but to create new services, to create new opportunities, to increase the size of the pie, so to say. Then the third aspect of AI is the lights and shadows of technology. So while we all understand the light of that technology, the shadows could be very long. They would be a decade or three away from us. So who is going to think about it, what the adverse impact on society would be of AI-driven technologies? And in that context, can also talk about regulation, but of course the regulation has to be balanced with innovation. So if it's a very tight regulation, then it would kill innovation. And so therefore you would have to have a balance between the two. Then finally, ethics and biases, which are inherent in AI. We have to think about those and saying, well, how do we take care of that? And finally, the fight between data and algorithmic supremacy. So is it the data supreme in AI or the algorithm? Now, of course, much of the data actually comes from countries like India. In fact, if we were to realize our own maps is our own data, but it's monetized by somebody else. So these are, very quickly speaking, are some of the concerns when we talk about AI, and that Shashi Vampati ji would actually talk about some of those and many more things. The second lecture that I'll also quickly introduce here is related to, given by Professor Sanjay Bihari, who is the director of Sri Chitra Tribunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology in Kerala, is about, oh, wait a minute. The title here says BAMOK. Okay, right. So I think I know what it means. BAMOK, it's like not the tip of the iceberg, but what is buried inside, which is 90%. So in an iceberg, you see 10% above and 90% is below. And so he's going to talk about that 90% of education, which is not there. And so it's very easy to see what is not there and what ought to be there, because education is no longer about learning. It's about cracking exams. All right. I hope that I got this right. Okay. But if it's not right, anyway, I'm giving my own lecture about education and stuff, right? So it's the bottom 90%, what should be there. It's not there, it's hidden. So whether we talk about independence in education, creative thoughts, we talk about all of that are not cultivated. There is very little emphasis on synthesis. There is all the emphasis on analysis. What that means is my education is chapter to chapter. It is from one course to another. It is from one degree to another, but there is no synthesis. But problem solving is about synthesis. It's not about analysis. So, you know, while the exams are based on one chapter, the life is not based on any chapter at all. Even though we say that's a different chapter of my life, but that's all wrong. So it's very fragmented, and how do we bring all that in? What about experiments? Experimental sciences is gone totally missing from school education, even from college, because it does not help you crack exams. Then their soft skills are again in short supply. And finally, to my mind, the education is emphasizing competition over cooperation. So if I am successful, it's because I could outcompete, outsmart my neighbor. But in life, finally, it is not going to be competition only. It is going to be largely cooperation that would make us successful. So anyway, so we are going to hear two very exciting lectures, as I said. The first lecture on AI AI, artificial intelligence, preparing for an artificial intelligence-powered future to repeat again, Shri Shashi Vampati, who's a co-founder, very interesting, about AI for India, which means, hey, what is India-centric, I suppose. And then he was a former CEO of Prasar Bharati, where I first met him. He was very kind, actually, to allowing us to start a channel in science. It used to be on DD National, and he was also very kind for us to wind it up because it was not very successful. So either way, I mean, whole credit goes to him, starting the channel and stopping the channel. Wonderful. And then, of course, Professor Sanjay Bihari would talk about BAMAK, the education and stuff. And a long-standing friend, very enlightened person. So we are very glad that we got both of them. And we are very glad we got a very compelling themes very exciting themes that we would discuss today. Thank you very much. May I first now invite our first speaker for today, which is Shri Shashi Vampati ji. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and very warm welcome to all of you to the National Science Day lecture. Very thankful to Professor Ashutosh Sharma for that introduction and reminding me that we still have some work to be done on having a science channel in India. So it's not easy to stand here in the presence of such esteemed scientists as Professor Sharma and Professor Karandikar and the ISRO chairman. So it's a very humbling experience for me. So thank you for this opportunity. And I'd like to share a few thoughts on how we can prepare for this AI-powered future. Given all that's happening across the world, almost every day with new developments, new models, new claims, a lot of hype around artificial intelligence. Today we are, looking at a scenario where AI is, no longer a distant future. It is already, shaping how we work, how we live, and how we communicate. And India, with its demographics, earlier Professor Karandikar spoke about, the youth, how, we are one of the largest pool of talent, young talent in India. And that kind of creates a very unique moment, unique opportunity for us to establish technology leadership at the global level. The minister also mentioned how a large number of scientists across the world are of Indian origin. So what about AI? Where do we stand in AI, and where do we go from an AI perspective, especially to prepare our youth? So the Prime Minister recently was in Paris. He was co-chairing the AI Action Summit that was held in Paris. And he spoke about two things. That how, while there are concerns, while there are challenges, very legitimate concerns around artificial intelligence, we must not get bogged down by them. We must also look at, the positive side on what AI can do, look at the opportunities, not just worry about the threats, the risks, and the safety aspects. And these words of the Prime Minister, kind of resonated there in Paris because you had this very clear divide in the world where one part of the world, especially Europe, was extremely focused on AI safety concerns. The other part of the world, the United States, was very aggressive about pursuing AI innovations and AI opportunities. So the world is today looking at India to play that middle role on showing the way ahead. I think the next such summit will be held here in Delhi. So clearly there's a lot of work that we in India have to do on this front. So how does AI permeate our entire society today? Be it governance, be it businesses, be it education, be it society. I think there are some interesting insights that we have got by talking to students, by talking to youth recently. One of the things that comes across very clearly and very strongly is that our diversity is a strength and an opportunity that will enable us to play a very strong role in this space. But for that to happen, clearly there needs to be collaboration. The government, the academia, the industry, all need to come together to build these AI systems, these AI solutions. And I think it goes to what even the Honorable Minister was speaking a little while back on how these collaborations are actually seeing fruit, in a whole range of technology areas, be it electric vehicles, be it genetically engineered cells, and so on. So let me look at a few aspects today in terms of how India's youth can prepare themselves for this AI future. I think it's not progressing. Okay, there we go. So one of the aspects of AI has been the pace of change, right? The manner in which new models have been rolled out so quickly over the last year or so. In the world of semiconductors, there is this term called the Moore's law, where the power or the capacity of these semiconductor chips would double almost every 2 years. Now that is still a very sequential linear model. What we are seeing with AI is a very exponential way in which the technology is getting sophisticated, where AI is not just getting better, but AI is being used to make AI even better. So you have this cycle of exponential evolution that's happening across various aspects of the technology. And what this also means is that citizen adoption of AI is far ahead of both government's capacity to regulate this technology, the capacity of businesses to adopt this technology and come up with new products or new offerings, and our entire institutional capacity to understand how this technology is impacting the society, how is it impacting students, what do we need to do on this front, right? And I think that is perhaps at the heart of the challenge right now, which is this exponential pace of change that we are witnessing. So an insightful study was done recently by a think tank here in Delhi called the Center for Policy Research and Governance. They spoke to about 600 students in Delhi University to understand how they're using AI in their academic activity. And one of the interesting aspects of this study was to not just look at the potential uses, the benefits that the students were deriving, but was also to understand from them what were the challenges that they were facing in using these AI systems. And what was very evident is that across this community of 600 students that were surveyed, that the use of AI by them was largely unstructured and mostly spontaneous on their own effort. It was not part of any structured curriculum or academic program. So as part of this exercise, I had the opportunity to go to Delhi University at an event last week. And so we had this gathering of students, mostly non-tech, non-science background students, people from commerce and liberal arts. We had this session on AI. And it was kind of very striking to me when that event was introduced, that the presenter said that AI is now a common tool. And the two words that she used were very, very instructive, that the technology is no longer rocket science. It is something very common as far as the student community is concerned. And we are talking non-science, non-tech background students here, right? We are talking liberal arts students. And to them, AI had become a everyday tool that they're using on a daily basis, and they don't see it or perceive it as rocket science. So that was very interesting. And during the session, we kind of asked the students, what do how many of you are using the tools every day? And almost everyone raised their hands. There was hardly any hands that were not raised. Then we asked them, how many of you feel that your future careers are unlikely to be impacted by AI? And hardly any hands came up. One student rose up, very interesting that this girl said that she's majoring in psychology and she doesn't think AI will impact psychology. And then she was immediately countered by another student who said that, you know what, my friend has been using ChatGPT for counseling. So he's seeking mental health counseling from ChatGPT. So I think that is where we are, that the technology has kind of reached this point where practically no career or no profession is going to be left without being impacted by AI. And this diffusion is happening even before the curriculum has caught up with AI, the government regulations have caught up with AI. And I think that's a very, very interesting moment that we are at. So the CPRG study looked at various aspects in terms of how AI was being used. And as part of this survey, what they found was almost everyone was using AI in some manner, 95%. So basically understand complex topics, understand complex subjects. So I think that was a very interesting insight in that the usage of the AI tools is not just merely to gather information, but it is also to learn and learn in a language that is perhaps closer to them, perhaps their native tongue. I think that is very, very significant in terms of what this also means is that the role of teachers and teaching has to change in this AI environment because students are relying on tools for assistance, for clarification, for understanding topics outside of the classroom. And the teachers need to understand how these tools are being used, what role these tools are playing. So the question is, can AI complement traditional teaching methods? Can it replace them in some manner? Or perhaps we're looking at a hybrid future where you're not only learning from a human in the classroom, but you also have a digital twin in terms of AI that's assisting you down the road. Sometime last year, constituted a committee.
Intention of this committee was to look at how could these media centers be reformed with a future perspective. So I was fortunate to serve on this committee on this legislation and had the opportunity to visit several of these universities where these media centers were housed. And it became very
clear to me that these media centers will have a very crucial role to play in this AI-enabled future. So one of the recommendations that our committee had made to the chairman of UGC was that you should look at using AI tools for transforming the learning journey on these MOOCs platforms and DTH and make them more dynamic. Because today, if you look at the content, it is the same content whether I am taking a MOOCs course or somebody else is taking a MOOCs course. There is no personalization, there is no understanding of my learning ability versus somebody else's learning ability. So can we look at a more dynamic learning journey where the MOOCs platform based on AI is better able to understand your learning needs, is better able to adjust to your pace of learning and is able to customize that entire experience. So one of the suggestions we had made was that don't just look at AI to create content, which is perhaps the easiest thing to do. I did that recently myself by using ChatGPT, that can I create a MOOCs course using ChatGPT, and I could do it in a matter of few minutes. I could create an entire course because today AI, generative AI has that ability to create content. But what about on the learning side? Can the AI tool understand what my level of comprehension is, what my level of my ability to learn is, and then pace my learning journey through that MOOCs course in a more dynamic fashion. So that's something that perhaps can happen down the road. But I think the key question, though, in all of this is that how do we address the language issue? Because unless we are able to deliver this content in the various Indian languages, and especially specialized subjects, be it science, be it engineering. So unless we are able to do it in the various Indian languages, I don't think we would have done our job in empowering our youth for VIKSIT Bharat, preparing them to be competitive for global leadership. Last year, I was at an event that was organized by 3 Sanskrit universities. It was a very illuminating experience because the focus of that conference was how do we make the large pool of Sanskrit students, Sanskrit graduates, employable. And there were various ideas that were being debated. And it kind of struck me that, there's a possibility here that these students who know multiple Indian languages can play a crucial role by pairing them with these AI tools, because you have this massive project to translate textbooks in various Indian languages, starting all the way from primary school to the university curriculum. But then who will verify if the content in these textbooks is accurate? Because if you're going to use AI tools to do these translations, there's a potential for errors, there's a potential for perhaps not explaining the subjects in the right way, and so on. So you need people who have the ability to understand multiple Indian languages and who also have the ability to understand the subject domain and to be able to make connections between the two to ensure that this process is effective. So these are the kinds of solutions that we will have to look for in this AI-enabled future where we are playing a bridging role between various domains, various languages, so that we can empower our youth. And I think the Honorable Prime Minister has shown the way on this, because if you look at his journey, I think the intersection of technology and Indian languages has played a very crucial role all along, and he's been talking about how we can use AI in Indian languages to accelerate our developmental journey towards VIKSIT Bharat. These are some more findings from this survey in terms of the kind of challenges that the students faced, especially around hallucinations. And this goes back to the point I made a few moments back on, you cannot rely on the output of AI. You have to have checks, and the only way those checks can happen is we have a human intervention. You have experts who understand the language, who understand the domain, who are able to verify if the content is accurate. So that brings me to, what is the way forward here in terms of, building AI models in India, in Indian languages. So if you look at most of the global AI models, they've all been built largely on content available on the internet with a Western perspective. And hence, there are several inherent biases. And they have a very poor understanding of Indian languages, Indian dialects, and the Indian context. So there's a significant gap there. So a key requirement for developing Indian foundational models in AI would be the availability of publicly accessible data sets, which are diverse and which reflect the Indian context in its entirety. Today, some of you may have seen in the Economic Times, there's an article that the government wants to open up the audio-visual archives of Doordarshan and All India Radio for AI development. So these archives, as you know, are a living memory of modern India. In fact, going back to decades before independence, they have captured India's heritage, India's history, culture, across not just the 20 official languages, but the several hundred dialects that All India Radio operates in. And several of these dialects, be it Gojri, Dogri, or so many of the northeastern dialects like Kok, Borok, and so on, have a very small digital footprint on the internet. So any model that is being developed in the West will not be able to do justice to these languages and dialects. So any foundational AI model that we build here in India can tap into these archives of All India Radio to be able to service requests in these various different languages. And this is possible today because the digitization of Doordarshan and All India Radio was taken up more than a decade back. And a lot of this digital content was readily available, which today the government is contemplating making it available to AI developers and researchers. During my tenure at Prasar Bharati, when I was the CEO, we had given IIT Kanpur access to this archive as well to develop certain models. So this process is now, I think, being taken much wider. And one of the interesting projects, early projects, was around the Mann Ki Baat repository. Because if you look at Mann Ki Baat, it is broadcast in more than 20 Indian languages. And it is perhaps a very authentic and reliable repository to do language modeling, because you have the Prime Minister speaks in Hindi, it's accurately translated to these 20 languages, and then the audio is recorded in all those 20 languages. So you have the ability to train the algorithm on a very reliable base of content. And some of the early work done by IIT Hyderabad, IIT Kanpur was in using this Mann Ki Baat corpus for building an Indian language model. We at AI for India have also been advocating that unless we make publicly accessible data sets from an Indian data context, we won't be able to really help this development of Indian foundational models. So we've been advocating something called Data Dan, where the idea is that can we motivate government organizations, public bodies, universities, private businesses to make their data sets available to AI developers in India so that Indian startups can catch up and build these models with the Indian context in mind. And several efforts are already underway on this front. For example, you have Anuvadini, which was created at AICTE, which is today being used for the textbook translation effort that I had mentioned. And then beyond translation, you're looking at a whole bunch of areas like speech recognition, multimodal interactions, and so on. And the Prime Minister has very rightly pointed out that unless we experiment with technology, we will not be able to accelerate this developmental journey. And he's been a role model in that sense. If you look at his own personal journey, he's not been shy of experimenting with new technologies. He was one of the first to use social media to directly communicate. He was one of the first to use live streaming of his speeches. I remember in 2012 when he did his first Google Hangout. That day the servers of YouTube in India crashed for almost an hour before they could bring it up. So in that sense, he's been a pioneer in the use of digital technologies. And he was also one of the first to use AI to translate his speeches, which we saw during the 2024 elections. So his vision that he had laid out at this Paris summit, I think kind of lays the roadmap in which we should move ahead. So in his mind, clearly the AI models have to reflect the diversity of India. They have to capture this wide span of India's dialects and India's languages. They have to capture India's native knowledge systems, India's wisdom, and reflect our cultural diversity and heritage. But most importantly, I think this is a very strong point that he made in his Paris speech, was to make AI sustainable. Because what we are seeing with ChatGPT and all the models that have been developed in the West, the large language models, that they are extremely power hungry. They need large data centers. They need captive power plants to be able to fuel all of that computing that is required to operate these large language models. Our path to AI has to be different. We have to have a more frugal, more sustainable way of doing AI, where we don't require such massive compute power and the energy requirements that go with it. Secondly, our approach to AI has to be reliable and trustworthy. And I think in this context, it is worth pointing out that a large number of the lawsuits that have been filed against OpenAI are around, the copyright violation, because when they went about building their model, they did not do it in an exactly ethical way. They just pulled information off the internet without necessarily seeking permission from those who has published that information. And then you have DeepSeek coming out of China, where the rumor is that they trained DeepSeek on the output of OpenAI. So here you have, a second order effect of unethical behavior in model development. I think the path that we have to take in India has to be very, very ethical. It has to be very different, and hence our approach to Indian AI has to be, very reliable and trustworthy. Here I think there's a strong potential for using AI to accelerate research and development. And this is a subject that I'm sure most of you will appreciate, that science and technology development research can benefit with the right kind of AI tools. We're already seeing it in a whole bunch of domains happening worldwide. So what does it mean, for AI to be a metaphor for aspirational India? That I think we must not be content with just technologies that have been developed elsewhere. I think we have the opportunity to create technologies here in India which can be adopted and disseminated worldwide. We've already seen that with the space program, how successful our space program has been, how frugal it has been. We've shown it with our digital public goods like Aadhaar, UPI, which are able to deliver societal scale benefits with a very unique Indian way of going about it. And there's a whole new generation of startups which today are thinking about developing deep tech products from India for the rest of the world. And I think that's a significant change that has happened in India. Professor Karandikar, I don't know if he's still here, but I was very fortunate during my tenure as Prasar Bharati CEO to work with him on nurturing a domain from a deep tech standpoint, where we looked at broadcasting, for example. Can we develop a chip that can receive broadcast signals on mobile phones? Because then that gives you the ability to reach the masses in India directly without having a dependency on 4G or 5G or internet to be able to deliver, for example, educational content or MOOCs content. And if you look at a technology like this, which is called direct-to-mobile broadcasting or D2M, combine it with AI, like the scenarios that I spoke about earlier on MOOCs, you're looking at a very uniquely Indian deep tech stack that can go all the way from semiconductor chips to AI-enabled educational applications, which can be delivered to our youth right across the country without the dependency on expensive technology. So all this potential exists today, and I think the moment calls for engagement between academia, between research labs, and the startups, like the ones that we saw earlier today, and to be able to bring these deep tech products to the market and compete with the best of the best, the leaders in various domains, be it companies out of the United States or be it what's happening in China. But for this kind of collaboration, I think you need to have an open approach to innovation, because often we get bogged down by intellectual property concerns, we get bogged down by copyright concerns, and that kind of restricts the amount of innovation that can happen. So one way to break these walls would be where industry collaborates more openly with startups, with research labs, with our IITs, with our universities, with our educational institutions. Recently, for example, Dream11 has experimented with something called a Gameathon, where they are collaborating with 53 technical institutions and 13 IITs, where they're making their data sets available to teams from these various colleges so that they can do a hackathon of sorts on the data sets made available by Dream11 and then be able to generate insights, generate applications. So these are the potential opportunities for collaboration, for open innovation, which can deliver on this dream of what aspirational India wants. If I look at what are we doing beyond LLMs and beyond generative AI, so there's a startup in Bangalore founded by IITians, which is looking at a vision model for AI, where they're able to analyze CCTV feeds for a whole range of applications, from manufacturing to retail. Similarly, another startup is combining computer vision with sensor data for the livestock industry. So they're taking deep tech right into animal husbandry, where they're monitoring the calves, their reproductive health, and are able to give real-time insights by combining computer vision and sensor data. I already talked about the archives of DD and AR. There's a team in IIT Kanpur which has worked on an audio model based on these archives, where they're able to sense and detect a whole range of audio sounds which go beyond spoken words to include musical tunes, ambient noises, for a whole range of applications. So all of this is potential that is happening in India beyond this hype around large language models and generative AI. Similarly, in the context of research, and I think a subject that would be very relevant to this audience, there's a Pune-based startup which has developed an architecture for a large knowledge system. And what is interesting is that this doesn't require huge compute power. It doesn't require massive GPUs. It can be optimized and run on a laptop. It can extract knowledge from across a large repository of source documents, and it can be used to generate very reliable and trustworthy insights. Because in the case of research, you cannot afford hallucinations, you cannot afford fake citations, and we've seen that with ChatGPT, that it can make up academic papers that don't exist. It can make citations that have never happened. So what you need is very, very highly reliable tool for research, and these guys have developed it. And this demonstrates that Indian innovation can perhaps match or even better a DeepSeek or a deep research. So how should India's youth prepare for AI? So it's very clear that LLMs and generative AI will not necessarily be the most reliable way to obtain deep domain knowledge. And one example that always comes to my mind is from Star Wars, where you have these two characters, C-3PO, which can speak in 6 million languages, which is very, very creative, very expressive. But then the real engineering knowledge, the real engineering abilities were in R2-D2, which could solve real problems. So this contrast, I think, is very, very important when we look at this whole AI hype cycle that currently we are in, that ultimately it is human insight that comes from specialized understanding that will always give us an edge over the machines. But then it won't necessarily be enough to specialize in just one domain. I think you will have to have this ability to connect the dots across diverse domains. Professor Sharma just talked about synthesis. I think that is exactly what this is, that you need to be able to synthesize these, these ideas by making connections across seemingly unconnected domains. And that can only happen where you are able to develop an understanding of multiple domains. And a good example is who are called polymaths. Historically, polymaths have been this word has been associated with geniuses, where they have understanding in very diverse domains, people like Leonardo da Vinci and so on. But I think all of us at some point in time in this AI era will have to become polymaths, where we are able to apply principles from across very different domains to solve problems. And that is how we retain an edge in this AI era. So how do you marshal AI to automate your routine tasks will become a very essential skill across domains. And in several specialized areas, ultimately that human supervision, that human oversight will be a mandatory requirement, perhaps even legal and regulatory requirement. For example, a lot of companies are trying to use AI for preparing legal briefs, to use AI as a legal tool. And we've seen that often these LLMs make things up which are not real, which are not factual. and that can cost you severely in the case of a lawsuit. So you have to have a human oversight on how do you verify and validate that what contract the AI has generated or what legal brief the AI has generated is valid, it is accurate, it is reliable. And the same will be true of even something as commonplace as software coding. Because today, again, one area where you are seeing a significant impact of AI is in software code generation. But then who will verify if the software code that has been generated is accurate? Who's going to test it? Who's going to make sure that the code is doing what it is supposed to do? And more importantly, it is not carrying some malicious code to do things that it's not supposed to do. So the only way to verify it is through, again, human intervention. So having these skills across these various domains becomes extremely essential. And perhaps what you'll also see, I think several speakers today spoke about the importance of data. So it is not merely enough to make data available for AI development. You need to enrich it, you need to annotate it, make it reach a level where AI can understand what is in that data. If, for example, we have an image or a video, you need humans to annotate every element within that image, every frame within that video, make it more informational so that the algorithm can make meaningful sense of what is in that photo or what is in that video. So you are looking at a whole new class of jobs that will arise around this whole function of data enrichment, data annotation. So that is another area where our youth should be looking at preparing themselves for careers. Which brings me kind of to my last slide, that I think we are at a juncture where human progress is at a pace we have never seen before. And I think it is a significant moment. And how do we ensure that we as a country, we as a society, are able to compete with the best of the best while ensuring that nobody is left behind and the entire society is lifted. And one way to do that would be to ensure that these innovations that we are creating here, that we saw today, for example, the electric tractor and so on, they have a way to diffuse through the society to the lowest strata of society, where even the smallest of entrepreneurs, the individual workers, are using these innovations in their everyday life. And an interesting measure of this is what is called diffusion. It is basically a measure of the ability of a society or an institution to absorb innovations and to make them commonplace in terms of usage within their environment. Because it's not enough to just say that we've adopted various innovations, but the use of those innovations has to trickle down the entire length and breadth of that organization or that society. An interesting study on this was done by Dr. Jeffrey Ding in a paper where what he calls the diffusion deficit in science and technological power. This paper's focus was largely looking at the technology race between US and China, but I think its lessons are relevant to India as well. And one of the relevant messages in that paper is that diffusion will not happen unless you have an ecosystem, a culture of developing an ecosystem for adopting innovation. So it's not just about one organization, one institution. You have to create an entire value chain where these innovations trickle down. And he also talks about open innovation, something that I spoke about earlier. And I'm sure Professor Ashutosh Sharma will appreciate this, because in this paper he picks up an example of chemical engineering on how in the early 1900s, both Germany was ahead of the US in industrial chemistry, but it was the US which really established a leadership position in bringing out chemical products, because in the US they institutionalized chemical engineering as a discipline, where, for example, creating an entire body of knowledge with rigor around unit operations and so on. So he goes on to use this example to say that if you have to bring in a new technology, it's not enough to just create new innovations. You have to have this less flashy, boring stuff of engineering it to make sure that it trickles down, it is reliable, it is sustainable, it gives you long-term advantage. And unless that discipline is put in place, you will not reap the benefits of new technology. And that is how you get long-term strategic advantage as a science and technology power. And I think while there is a lot of hype on DeepSeek and what China has done, according to this paper, there is still a substantial deficit in terms of diffusion in China. And I think that is what gives us a hope and a window of opportunity that if in India, we can ensure that we are able to diffuse these science and technology innovations, we can get ahead of even the so-called tech superpowers today in the world, which is US and China. And I think this kind of sets the stage for the direction that we need to take in India for AI. The Prime Minister has been an inspiration and a role model in that he has shown how he personally has absorbed and diffused technology, not only within his own office, his own operations, but the entire movement that he's been leading. And he's able to do that because he's a great listener, a constant learner, and a master communicator. I think these are the three skills that will be, I think, will hold you in greater stead as you prepare yourself for this AI future, where learning never ends. Learning is a constant pursuit, and that's how you will ultimately thrive, not just survive, but thrive in this AI era. And hopefully you will realize this vision, this dream of a VIKSIT Bharat by 2047. Thank you for this opportunity. I think it was wonderful to speak to all of you.
Okay, now we are ready to move from artificial intelligence to real intelligence, which is the next lecture today. As I pointed out, its title is very interesting. I think you might have to consult Google Guru to find out what it means. And this is BHARAT, Professor Sanjay Bihari. He's going to talk about, I don't know what he's going to talk about. Please go ahead and talk about it.
A very good afternoon. It's an honor and privilege for me to be here in this wonderful hall, which is a historical hall. And I'm as excited to be here as probably all of you are. So empowering Indian youth for global leadership in science and innovation for VIKSIT Bharat. This is what our Honorable Prime Minister has talked about. And I'm absolutely grateful to Ministry, Secretary, and Department of Science and Technology, and to Professor Ashutosh Sharma for his kind support over these years. So the title of my talk is BHARAT, and I'm going to talk a little bit about BHARAT. So I come from Trivandrum. This is an institute, which is a very unique institute, which was established almost 45 years ago. And here, we focus on cardiac and neurosciences, and along with that, we focus on biomedical device development, and we also focus on public health initiatives. And this is basically focused on cardiac and neurosciences. And this is a statutory body by Act of Parliament, as well as an institute of national importance. And of course, it is very, very ably supported by the Department of Science and Technology. In fact, it is the only medical institute under the Department of Science and Technology. So it has a very special role to play in science and technology, and especially related to biomedical device development. So coming on to the topic, what is a BHARAT? So BHARAT is the 90% of the iceberg, which is below the sea, okay? So only 10% of the iceberg is above the sea, and that is known as hummock. How many of you actually knew the word BHARAT before you saw it? No one. So you saw, so hummock is 10%, and 90% of iceberg, where floating iceberg, is below the sea, which is the BHARAT. Why is 90% below the sea and only 10% above the sea? Let me come to some physics here. So looking at the Archimedes principle, it says that a body at rest in a fluid and especially if it is floating, is acted upon by a force which is known as the buoyant force, which is equal to the weight of the fluid that the body displaces. So, if the body is completely submerged, the volume of the fluid displaced is equal to the volume of the body. So, supposing I am floating in a swimming pool, then my total volume will be equal to the water displaced by the swimming pool. This is what it is. So this is, of course, we've all read this, Archimedes' principle, though very few of us really understood it. So now we come to the bummock. What happens is that the density of ice is 0.9 gram per ml, and the density of water is 1 gram per ml, which means that 110% of ice is equal to 100% of water, which means that if iceberg is floating in water, 10% will remain above, and 90% or 100%, so 110% means 100% will dip into it, and 10% will stay above. So bummock, how is that associated with Science Day is the question. So what we have to actually look at is, what are we have hummocks of modern education, which is 10%. The part of education that we all read, that is only 10% of what real education is all about. And that is what academics is taught. Oh, it gives us marks, high marks, this, that, we're focusing on that. But 90% of our education, which we learn the hard way, are the bummocks of education, which are the not-so aspects of education that I'm actually going to talk about. So, first of all, the most important thing about life is, and education, it is recognizing the multidimensionality of life and education. So, the first question which I ask all of you is a very simple one. What is the difference between Indian classical music and Western classical music? People at the back, how many of you have actually heard Indian classical music and Western classical music? Oh, come on. I'm sure many of you must have, oh, good. A lot of you. So what is the actual difference? So in Indian classical music, you have sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, followed by sa, which is an octave. You understand? And what happens in Western classical music? You have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and do again. You've all heard that song, do, a deer, a female deer. You have all heard that song, right? So therefore, again the same octaves, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, and do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, let's just watch my two slides very, very carefully, and you have to tell me what the differences between Indian and Western classical music are. So this first is a Western classical music. It's a favorite one on mine, which is Beethoven's Symphony No. 9, which is played by Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Sound? Watch it carefully. And now, let's look at Indian classical music. This is Zakir Hussain and Rakesh Chaurasia playing at the Crossword Festival and Euro Radio. The differences. The first difference is that in Western classical music, the music is very structured. Haven't we all noticed that there is a plain piece of paper in front of everybody? So everybody knows when they are singing a note that, okay, if I'm the drummer, then if at one point I have to say dum, and I say drrrr, it's a disaster. The music is structured, right? Everybody knows their entire role in the scheme of things and has to work like that. But in the Indian classical music, we have gamkas. Gamkas of Indian classical music is that these are variations. So nobody knows what that actual thing will be. So it will be on a format, which means that if they are singing one particular note, but the singer as well as the musician will play gamkas, and they challenge each other by making variations in these gamkas. They will vary in tone, they will vary in sound, they will vary in quality. Haven't you noticed? No two notes are similar. For example, you can go ah like Pandit Jasraj, or you can say in the same thing. So there are variabilities in Indian classical music, which are gamkas. These are ornamental improvisations or graceful turns, curves, or connecting touches applied to notes or groups of notes. So coming on to the gamkas of life, I'll just show you some neurosurgery. So this is a basilar top aneurysm. It's regarded as a very difficult surgery, deep-seated. There is a actually deficit in the wall. And I just want to show you one of the surgeries which I've done on a patient. And you just see. So this is just the skull that you see, and I'm drilling with a high-speed drill here. And then going deep inside, it's going to get worse, ma'am. So you have to. So, it's like, so there is an optic nerve there, and you must know the surgery and how it is done. So this is high-speed drilling you are doing. And then gradually going inside, then opening the layers. And once you go inside and open the layers, then you see the brain. So this is the brain, and this patient has bleeding. That's why the brain is a little red on it. Okay, and this is the cerebrospinal fluid that you see. And as you open, the yellow thing is the optic nerve, and the pink thing is the internal carotid artery. So this is I'm doing the dissection, and you see that there is blood in this area which is known as cisterns. So cerebrospinal fluid, if you turn a person around, it's not like the entire cerebrospinal fluid flows out. It is because there are multiple compartments which actually keep the cerebrospinal fluid intact. And so now I have a high-speed magnification. This is the pituitary stalk. That red striations that you see is the pituitary stalk. With a high speed, I'm actually doing surgery here. So this is going deep inside, and now I'm going to move laterally, and now going to the temporal lobe. This is known as the temporal lobe, and I'm retracting it, and now going. I just want to show you what happens in life. So through neurosurgery, which is my domain. And so now this is the, if you see that yellow structure straight, where close to my scissors, that is the third nerve, the oculomotor nerve, which is responsible for your eye movements. And so if something happens to that, then the eye movements simply disappear. So, and you see that red area just adjacent to it, which is pulsating. That is the aneurysm. So that is the aneurysm, that is the basilar top aneurysm. With a dissection, I'm actually dissecting out that aneurysm. So, so now you see that the entire aneurysm will be just seen. It is covered by a red clot. You see that it's covered by a red clot here. And now this is needle, we use this needle, we use these scissors. This is the area of the brainstem. You must have all heard about the brainstem, which is responsible for respiration, which is responsible for consciousness, everything. And now you can see that red, you see now my dissector is on that aneurysm. This is the weakness in the wall. And so now I'm gradually dissecting it, making sure that it is coming in your view. And that red thing, gradually I'm dissecting all around just to make sure that I can put a clip on it so that it is excluded from the circulation. So gradually, and you see that those small vessels that you see, this is the opposite side vessel that I'm seeing, and there is still some layer of clot on the weakness in the wall. And now gradually, now you can see that there's a pink and there is a red thing. So you see, under very high magnification, this is the area that you need to focus on. Because if this bleeds inside the brain, the patient is dead. So you have to actually dissect it completely and take it forwards. So I'll, again, never forget the gamkas of life. So perfect, everything is going perfectly. And I'm very happy, it's now dissected, everything is perfectly done. It's like a Hindi movie, right? Suspense is coming. So now, you see that red thing? It's like fiery red and just perfectly ready for a clip. So I'm going to exclude it from the circulation, and I do that, and suddenly you see that the entire thing starts bleeding inside, and you can see, so this is what we encountered on a daily basis. This is not about neurosurgery, it's about life. Every day, there is an unanticipated gamka in life that you have to take care of. So now I put a clip there, and put another clip, the second clip, and I've excluded from the circulation, and the patient recovered completely. So we have so many unanticipated problems, and we have to be prepared like an Indian musician. We have to make sure that we are actually prepared and that the bleeding stops and the patient did reasonably well. So this is the first one. So we all are focused on unidimensional education. But to maintain a stream of successes, the fact that you're all in this hall simply means that you are outstanding scholars. But what happens is, to maintain the stream of success, you just do not try new things. And you do not fail multiple times. And you do not want to master new techniques. You simply want to be successful in that small, narrow field that you have carved for yourself. But success is a lousy teacher. And therefore, accept and respect the unanticipated difference in life and take risks. That is my first message. The second is, a very important part of science and education is establishing communication with co-workers. It's a very important part of science and education. So, how many of you are married in the hall? Oh, great. So, a lot of you are married. Oh, none of you are married? Okay. So we take these 7 feras. If I ask you what those 7 feras are, I'm sure none of you can answer what those 7 feras are. Well, let me tell you. The 7 feras represent 7 things. To nourish each other, to grow together, to preserve the wealth of each other, to share joys and sorrows, to take care of our family, to be together forever, to maintain lifelong friends. So these are some of the 7 feras that we talk about. And most of us don't know. We just go around mindlessly, okay, and say, oh, finish, let's go home. Right? How many agree with my statement? Yeah, many, okay. Yes. So then, what are the 7 feras of communication? So these are known as the Saptabadi principles. The 7 feras are the Saptabadi principles. What are the Saptabadi principles of communication in education? exhibiting empathy and concern. What we do is, whenever we see each other, it's only about, oh, we have come for this particular discussion, finish, just go back, and that's the end of it. No. Maintain empathy and concern for each other. Initiating small talks while the meeting starts, it helps you develop a bond with each other. Neither interrupting the flow of conversation nor forcing information. In medicine, I've seen the residents come, jaldi batao, dusra patient khada hai. Arey, nah, you just maintain that flow of information. And then he says, us din ye hua tha. No, just tell me presenting history. Don't tell me past history before the presenting history. No, maintain flow of information. Don't interrupt flow of conversation. Reserving adequate time for the conversation to take place. Not rigidly guiding the flow of facts into compartmentalized, artificial-made divisions. Having a one-to-one private conversation. Assuring and then maintaining absolute confidentiality. This is Saptabadi principle of scientific communication. Nobody teaches you these things in medicine or in any other branch of science, but they are equally important. And I would I request you to focus. Another very important thing is, what does this mean? We say this, and the other person answers back. Can somebody tell me what this means? Namaste, what does it mean? Nobody knows. I'll tell you what it means. It actually means, I respect the divinity in myself, and I respect the divinity in you. And both of us respect this common chain of divinity which runs through both of us and all of us. This is what namaste means. Namaste means, I will say namaste, you will say namaste back. It means we are respecting divinity in each other. And that should hold for every person. It's not only for, these important people in your life. It holds for the person who's cleaning up your office. It holds for your driver. It holds for the cook. It holds for the person who's watering your plants. They are the people who have been responsible for your reaching where you are reaching. And unless you respect them, you will go nowhere. This is the second, very important point. The third is, whenever I'm a big director, so I'll say, oh, we need more people. We need diversity. I want you to hire more people who look different, but think just like me. No, this is completely wrong. When you want diversity, it has to be people who are completely different from you, who think differently from you. You should always think, does that person make me uncomfortable? If that person is making you uncomfortable, that means that's the person that you want to really focus on. That's very important. Another very important thing for all the students here, the second law of thermodynamics. Some of you must have read it. What does it say? Any closed systems remains in a state of increasing disorderliness or entropy unless energy is attached to it. Now, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. How does it translate into science and medicine and everything? I'll tell you what happens. All of you students, either you will make your teachers into gods or you will make them into villains. They are neither. They are just human beings. What you have to understand is that the second law of thermodynamics also works for any education that you're getting. First of all, the teacher has more energy. The teacher is giving you energy. Then you almost reach the same level of energy. And then what happens? Then the student gets more energy and the teacher gets less energy. And any teacher who does not understand this natural flow of thermodynamics of education is a stupid fool. So please understand this, and therefore, you have to actually do both. You have to make sure that you are giving respect to your teachers, but you should also make sure that your individuality is important. And you should, at a very early stage of your career, also try for individuality so that their balance will come, and then you will start the reverse flow when you will start giving your education to the teachers. The third, everybody says publish, 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 publish. How many of you students are tired of this statement? Please publish, please publish. Yes? Oh, many, many. Yeah, good, good, good. I'm so happy. So the question is, are publications an exercise in drudgery? So the important thing is, now as a surgeon, imagine me as a surgeon, every day from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock will be OT. Then I have to look at post-operative cases. Then I have to look at, Kranti is nodding, she's my student here. So, then 11 o'clock they'll be round, and then morning 5 o'clock again it will start. So somewhere I have to do those publications also. And they would say, either you can operate or you can write. You cannot do that. On the other hand, whenever I would face examiner, they would say, publish or perish. Okay, so what is the real truth? Now the interesting thing is, why does one not publish? Because it requires a leap of faith. You have this time-space quadrant, and why don't planets crash against each other? Because they say there is a space-time web in which all the planets are floating in the space. So they do not crash against each other. And this also works for us that, what happens is, there is a leap of faith. This was decided, this time-space constant was decided by Einstein in somewhere when he was a 21-year-old, just a small clerk in a patent office. And after many, many years, after nearly 100 years, they actually found out that it was absolutely correct. So please have faith in yourself. Have this leap of faith. And if you do not publish, it's basically because you don't have faith in yourself. And therefore, have this leap of faith, which is very, very important. Then, what is this? Anybody? Audience? Huh? Solar eclipse. Well, tell me something. Which is the solar eclipse? Which is the exact picture? 1, 2, or 3? All. So what happens is nature follows patterns. Nature follows patterns. So anybody who doesn't see that nature follows patterns does not realize it. So when you're actually recording something truthfully, you will immediately start understanding the patterns of nature. And when you start understanding the patterns of nature, you will immediately start deciphering them. That is why it's very important for you to record things honestly and record it from the beginning and make sure that you're doing it properly. Then what is common between all these photographs? Can somebody tell me? Nose is broken. So now the big problem which came up is that people said, oh, the nose is the most prominent part. These are all 5,000-year statues. So nose is broken because they have to be broken, right? Obviously, this is the most prominent structure. After 5,000 years, all the noses will be broken. Then they actually deciphered the hieroglyphics, and they found a very strange thing. They found that first the Egyptians make their noses, and then they broke them. Why did they break them? Because they believed in afterlife. And they said, when a person is not breathing in afterlife, what is the need to have a nose? So they will break it. Even the Sphinx doesn't have a nose. You understand? So what may be obvious may not be necessarily true. And if you are getting something which may not be obvious, somehow universe wants you to understand that. And therefore, you must understand that. Another very important thing is, what is this? Can somebody tell me? The world political map, right? Do you know that this world political map is completely wrong? You know that? Some of you know. So actual sizes are this. The African continent is much larger than what it is supposed to be. Europe is much smaller. If you look at, because it's a globe, so it kind of stretches anything that you see which is close to the equator. Therefore, if you actually look at the entire thing, you will find that Africa is much larger than what it appears to be, and Europe is much smaller than what it is. And this is the actual sizes of the various continents and how they will all fit into Africa. And most of us don't know it. So what we think is obvious is not actually true. You understand? And if you are getting a thought, then please do not ignore that thought, because it's a scientific thought that you need to develop. You'd never say, oh, this is all nonsense. No, it's not. You understand? The other thing about publication is that you see this, William Faulkner had written this book in 1936. It has the longest sentence, 1,288 words. Then there is another word, which is hippopotamomonstrosiquipedelophobia, which refers to a phobia of using long words. Yeah, it's true. Okay, you understand? And then a funny thing happened. Somebody said, this is too long. So somebody gave a shorter word. It was sesquilopedelophobia, which is a shorter term for the same phobia. You understand? And I've been editor of a journal for almost 6-7 years. And the funny thing is that nobody focuses on references. And it is very annoying for the editor. So if you really want your article to be actually accepted, use small sentences, use small words. You please put your thoughts into it. That's what the people are interested. Don't just say, oh, I'll make a meta-analysis of all the studies and then put it all. It's your thoughts which are important. And don't use, don't kind of fall over big words and big sentences and all that. It's very important. Another thing which is very important, everybody starts IMRAD, all of you know IMRAD, introduction, material methods, results, and discussion. Okay, this is what IMRAD is. Everybody has done it, except that you don't know what IMRAD is. Introduction, material methods, results, and discussion. But when an editor is actually evaluating your paper, how does he evaluate your paper? He will first look at material methods, then he'll look at results, and then if they are relevant, then he may look at your discussion. But the big point is, first he's looking at your material methods and results, and that's what you need to focus on when you're writing a paper. Forget about your discussion. After you've written your material methods, and after you have got all your tables ready and all your results ready, that's when you write your discussion in your own words, and then just supplement it with some small things here and there, with some statements here and there. But please do not start with discussion or introduction. That means you've already kind of fixed on what you want to actually publish. This is a very, very important thing. Who is this person? Who's the other one? Other one. Come on, you should be able to identify the other one also. Huh? Anyone? Back? Even I don't know the answer. I just taken it from Google. Now, who's more beautiful? Is she more beautiful or is she more beautiful? Who's more beautiful? Both are beautiful. Somebody said, both are beautiful. Yes. I completely agree. Both are beautiful. Now, I have another question. Will you allow this beautiful young girl to actually appear in the Miss World competition dressed like she's dressed? No. So you have to also make your paper well-dressed. You have to ensure that the language is correct. You have to make sure references are properly done. You have to make sure that all that you want are to be actually included in the paper. You have to work on these things. And another thing is the great Indian quagmire. And we are all guilty of the great Indian quagmire. I have been a professor to an examiner to nearly 20, 30 institutes, all central government institutes and institutes of national importance. When I look at thesis, I'm very sad to say this, and goes for all professors here sitting in the first row, that 90% or 99% of the references are quoted from international literature. Now, what is the great Indian quagmire here? When I go for selection of candidates, NIMHANS, AIMS, Shri Chitra, SGPGI, everywhere, they say, how many international publications, how many national publications? This is total wrong and false. Why? Because there is no international journal. Every journal is a national journal. Either it is a European journal, or it's an American journal, or it's an Indian journal. And when you are not citing your own journal, you are going into the daldal, which is the great Indian quagmire. Why do I say you are going into the great Indian quagmire? You are like Kalidas. What happens is, when there was this conference in Belgrade, where I was invited with all the other international speakers, all of them were editors of all top neurosurgery journals, and I was also one of them. And I said, there's no international journal, they're all national journals. They were very angry with me, but it's true. The issue is, we don't cite our own journals. We cite, oh, this journal, that journal, that journal. Now the problem is, with our citation, those journals have a higher impact factor. When they have a higher impact factor, they become important. They become international journals because of you. Now, when they have become international journals, which paper will they reject? Which paper will they reject? Your paper. Okay, you have strengthened them, and they are rejecting your paper. But now, when you cite your own paper, two things happen. Your citation of your journals increase. The citation of your institution increases. The citation of your department increases. And the second important thing is it also authenticates your work. Because what you have done, the data that you have given, they don't understand that data. They say he's cooking it up. But when many, many people you have given reference to are also giving data like that, then it authenticates your work. So please cite peers in your own country. Make it a habit. Make your own journals important. Once your journals are important, then you will have other people contributing to this. In Neurology India, the impact factor was 2.716 when I was editor, and 40% of the articles were from international journals, neurosurgery articles. Why? Because they said, well, this has a high impact factor. We'll submit our articles to Indian journal. Now we come to plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Please understand the meaning definition of plagiarism. If greater than 50 words are quoted verbatim without a reference, it is plagiarism. You understand? So either you quote everything in your own words, or you have anything greater than 50 words, please give a reference to it. The second important thing is fabrication of an image, image manipulation, copying, duplicate of image. The next is salami publication. What is salami publication? You have this loaf of meat, and you cut it. Even if they're thin slices, each loaf looks exactly the same. Same is with your data. You have, say, 30 patients of some rare disease. And what you do, then you make salami publication. This one, this one, this one, this one. Each one of them is a slightly different variation with the same publication. You will not realize it, but when somebody is actually checking your thing, then they will understand, oh my God, this is wrong. The other thing is conflict of interest. If you are getting funding from something, please declare the funding. Even if it is from a private organization, please declare that funding. So this is very, very, very important. These are some important things which, okay, so now I want to ask you one small thing here. So how many of you know this song, have heard this song? Everybody has heard this song. How many of you know the movie? Nobody? Come on. Okay, how many of you know the meaning of the song? Oh, very few. People from Tamil Nadu, right? Most of the other people will not even know that this is a horror movie or something like, a killer movie and all that. And why is there so much of rage, young girl? That's the actual meaning of this song. You understand? Now, you must understand these things, because the important thing is, why has this song been put into that movie? Because it's a twist in the movie. Suddenly, everybody remembers that movie through the song. Do you understand? That is what you have to do for your publication. That twist is needed. Ask yourself this question. Why there is cola very in your publication? You understand? In every single publication, ask this question. And then suddenly, those will become absolutely useful. The other important thing is expanding your circle of influence. Dr. Raj Shekhar, who's from CMC Vellore, has given a beautiful concept of this. When I'm operating on my patients, I will probably be able to operate about 7 cases per week or 10 cases per week. Neurosurgery takes about 8 to 10 hours. If I have trained people, then I will be able to operate maybe through them. Each of them operates 10 more patients. So that means the circle of influence has gone up considerably. But when I'm a researcher, when I have published something, when I have made biomedical devices, when I have written books, then my circle of influence exceeds beyond my lifetime. And that is what immortality is. Immortality is when your circle of influence actually exceeds beyond your own lifetime. And I'll tell you a little bit about something that you know nothing about. One is patents. Now the time has come for you to actually focus on patents even when you're students. And they provide you a statutory right by the government. It is for a limited period. It is a territorial right, means this is country specific. Your patents are country specific. When you get a patent, then it is only for yourself and not for anybody else. It is not applicable in US and other areas. One important thing about patents is, it's a patenting of an idea. It's a patenting of a concept. It is not that you have to make a complete device before you make a patent. This is a very important aspect of patent. The other thing is, please do not publish your idea before it is patented. Because if you publish your idea before it is patented, then it can no longer be patented. It is now common property for everybody. So this is also a very important aspect of patents. And the international patents are country specific. So if you want to make a business in the US, then you have this country. So these are all various devices which we have made in Chitra. They've been patented, almost 50 patents a year. And we have made a heart valve, left ventricular assist device, stents, and several other devices. We have made a deep brain stimulator, which is now expression of interest. We have made hydroxyapatite beads, which can be used for osteomyelitis. These are electrodes from which electroencephalographic techniques can be done. We have made spinal implants there. And these are some of the important things. So with IIT Kanpur, when I was in SGPGI, we had this wonderful thing which we got, and now it is now in the process of being commercialized. One company has already taken it. It's now modifying it. And this relates to the atlantoaxial joint, where, you can actually rotate it, you can fix it, you can actually percutaneously actually do the procedure. And we got a good award, we got a patent for this, we got the prize for this. And so, when you're even young, you can actually take it to the next level. Whatever idea comes to you, you should actually take it. And now the advantage is that on CT scan, if you feel that there is displacement of the atlas and axis vertebra, you can actually percutaneously design this using this instrument. And then you can actually give the translational displacement that you need, the angular displacement that you need, and the vertical displacement that you need, and actually you can take it forwards. The other important thing is, please focus on biomedical device development. We are having a 60% increase in our imports on biomedical device development. In fact, in defense, we have become more self-sufficient than we have in biomedical devices. And therefore, when you have an idea, then it becomes a proof of concept. Proof of concept phase. And then it becomes a post-production phase. Then you have a preclinical evaluation phase, and then you have a clinical evaluation phase, and then finally you commercialize it. So these are important steps in biomedical device development that you need to look at fast. So now, if you actually do any surgery, you will find that even in a simple procedure, there are so many things which you can actually innovate. Trolley, bed, drip set, saline drip set, IV cannula, angio table, catheters, so many things you can actually make yourself. Even anything, even a table, even a chair, even the ergonomics of this entire hall, everything you can devise yourself. And this is a very, very important aspect of it. And then another thing is you have two types of devices. One is low-tech and high-tech. When you're making low-tech devices, then the low-tech devices can be easily reproduced. So you should actually focus on both low-tech devices as well as on high-tech devices. So that high-tech devices will take a long time. But your credibility will be established if you have both a low-tech and a high-tech devices. And therefore, the final point here in this section is quality ensures longevity. So you must ensure that you are making sure that everything is tested properly. Because if you don't do that, then your device will fail, and so will your institute. So it's very important that you actually ensure it's going on. Another very important thing is conflicts in workplace. And I'm sure if I'll raise this question to everybody, everybody will say, oh, there is one person. If he would not be there in the workplace, I will be much happier. Everybody will say that. Yes or no? Yes. So therefore, but you have to understand that workplace violence is basically related to criminal intent. There may be a customer-client violence. There may be worker-to-worker violence. And there could be a personal relationship violence. And another thing is, you see, this is basically coming because there's a feeling of indispensability. You see, this is a resignation letter. Bye-bye, sir. This guy thinks, oh, I can just throw it, okay? So you must understand this. The second important thing is, that Carl Sagan, he was a scientist. So when Voyager was almost at the end of the solar system, then just turned the Voyager around and took a photograph. So you see that blue dot? So that blue dot is Earth. So, we have an exaggerated self-importance. Oh, we are great. But you see how tiny the Earth is. We have not even crossed the solar system. And this was a book, a blue dot, a vision of the human future. So please understand, you're not as important as you think you are. Then the other very important thing is, one small thing, is notional expectations and their consequences. I'll just tell you what it is.
तो देवेंद्र संजू मेरे सामने हॉट सीट पर बैठ गए हैं। हर्ष सलूजा जी, ये वडोदरा गुजरात से हैं। आ रहा है 10वां प्रश्न, खेल का दूसरा पड़ाव, 3,20,000 रुपए।
So this guy, so what happened was this guy won some 2.5 lakhs or something, or 3 lakhs. And then he came down to, then his next question was wrong. So he came down to 5,000. Then somebody said, oh my God. Then he came out very sad. And I said, what happened? Oh, I lost 2.5 lakhs. Arey, you never had those 2.5 lakhs in the first place. You understand? So this is what notional expectations is. You increase your notional expectations on things which you don't even have, right? And then you come down to a lower level and they say, oh, I lost this, I lost this. You understand? Please understand this concept of notional expectations. And then whenever train is coming, there are two rails. One rail is what you are doing for the organization. And the second rail is what you're doing for yourself. And at some point, if the second rail, where you're doing something for yourself, is not good enough, you are useless to the organization. So you must understand that both rails, the first where you're doing something for the organization, and the second one where you're doing something for yourself, which is actually helping the organization, both are equally important. And this is something that you must understand with this thing. And finally, work delegation and collaboration. Do you know that the cycle actually works? Can you believe that the cycle works? You understand? It works fantastically. It runs very fast. You understand? So work delegation and collaboration. You can have many, many ideas. You understand? This is a very interesting thing. You know, the wheel is work goes in such a way that the cycle actually works. So this is very, very important. And the final point is, at your level, everybody is an achiever. In case of failure or struggle, the only thing that gives lives value is gone. So what happens is that, oh, I'm some big, big person in the government. And then when I lose that position, I'm a failure. Oh, nothing is working. I'm depressed. No. You cannot define your self-worth based on ratification of others and by your profession. One day that will go. And therefore, you have to be very, very careful in making sure that tenacity, resilience, resolve, idea, discovery, all these things are very, very important. Don't think that your position is important or what you're doing professionally is important. This will go away within a very short time. And there are three types of mental health. Cognitive health, which we are all focusing on. But there are two more healths which are more important. One is emotional health and behavioral health. And whenever I have had two types of residents, one who just get, oh, I have had a complication, now nothing will work, whole life is gone, and they never actually take risks. And there is another group which says, arey, chalo, koi baat nahi, we'll go again. Look at it, look at things. And then that emotional health and behavioral health is very, very important. So this is very, very important. And finally, one point I want to say, as you become more and more senior and you get responsibility, please understand that responsibility is swar sandhi. You understand what swar sandhi is? It is a breakup of two words, response plus ability. The more higher you get, responsibility is the ability to give a proper response. You understand? You may be able to do something, you may not be able to do something. But 90% of failure occurs because you are not able to give that response. So please remember, as you become higher and higher, responsibility is response plus ability. Got it? This is very, very important. So, to summarize, communication, written zero tolerance policy and protocol has to be given. Workplace violence training should come in every institution. Encourage confidential reporting of concerns or specific incidences. Consider using outside expertise to provide threat assessment. You have lawyers, you have so many good people who can actually take it forwards. Helpline and immediate team response. And when a violent or aggressive incident occurs, a code white is called. So every organization should have a code white. Just press it. Code white, code white, code white. All people in that organization come to that point. Who will hit you? Nobody can hit you when everybody is there. You understand? So these are protocols that you have to establish in every institution, and these are things which nobody talks about. These are blummers in the entire group. So another important thing is equipment maintenance. I won't go into too much, but only thing is 90% of you never focus on equipment maintenance, which will form your essential part of your life. It is so important that you must focus on equipment maintenance. What is warranty? What is price fixation? What is comprehensive maintenance? What is labor contract? All these are very important, and none of you actually focus on these very important things. And finally, personal development, scientific communication, writing a project, grant, data keeping, checklist, consequence of fusion between artificial intelligence and bioinformatics. I'd like to just spend 1 minute with the chairman's permission on this one. First of all, scientific communication. You should never have more than 4 to 6 lines per slide, right? Never use red color on blue background, or light green or yellow on a white background. Okay, this is an absolute no-no. These are signs. You have to understand this. Black or red or on white is good. Size of the font is extremely important. You have to make it telegraphic. Do not make it into complete lines and lines. I'll tell you why it is very important. Because when you are actually looking at it, your vision has a more dominant sense than your hearing. So whenever you're putting too many lines, look at this slide, then everybody starts reading the slide. As soon as they start reading the slide, they'll phase you out. So if you really want yourself to be heard, your slides have to be short and sweet. You understand? The second important thing is writing a project grant. So all these factors are very, very important. You must learn all these things. So do your research, keep it simple, be clear and concise. Make sure your proposal is well organized. Tell a story. Be convincing, be professional. And I'm just giving you the points which are very, very important for research grants. Then we talk about artificial intelligence. The problem with retrospective artificial intelligence is that you are actually teaching the machine all the wrong things. So an artificial intelligence can only be prospective, please understand, wherein your very clear demarcations are actually told to the machine. And therefore, you must make sure proper records are maintained. And this in 99% of the organizations does not happen. Very important that there should be people who should actually be focusing on record keeping. And this is a very, very important aspect. Then we have documentation. Everything should be documented. If you're doing research in your lab, from the day that you start your research, you should do a lab. I had an American father, and he was teaching us photography. And so one person, he was very smart. What he did was he got a professional photographer. And his project, he got it completed by the professional photographer. He got a 0. And there was another guy who gave his project where it was a complete black. The whole thing went black. And then he explained why everything went black. And he got full marks. So please keep a record. Because when you keep a record of what you're doing on a daily basis, you learn from it. We keep videos of every surgery we have done. So next time we are doing surgery, we look at all those videos. And therefore, we know, oh, this is where we got into trouble. This is where we got into trouble. These are very important things. Documentation is extremely, extremely important. Checklists. So one person, one doctor, this is a true story, operated on the wrong side of brain because he did not do a World Health Organization checklist. So what you have to do is we stop our surgeries and make sure that every single, is this the right patient? Is it the right surgery? Is it the right side of the brain? Is it the right limb? We do that. And whenever you get a news where surgeon operating on the wrong part of the brain, that means that he has not actually looked at the checklist. And this goes in the lab. Before you leave the lab, has my beaker been washed? Has everything been put in the right place? Have I closed all the reagents? Everything should be a checklist which should be actually done. And finally, this is my final point. You see, one big thing which is happening in the system which many of you don't realize. How many of you are wearing an electronic, that digital watch? How many? Oh, great. So many of you are wearing a digital watch. Now I'll tell you, everything is being recorded. When you're Googling something, it is being recorded. When you're traveling, you're using maps, that is being recorded. When you are actually going to a shop and there is tachycardia, oh, you say, oh, my heart rate increases because I like this beautiful dress. It is being recorded. Your pupil dilated is being recorded. And a time will come that your reactions will be controlled by how you respond to a particular situation or to a particular commodity. We cannot prevent that. It's a global phenomenon. But what we can do is to actually empower ourselves with it. And as our previous speaker said, we must make sure that every curriculum should have artificial intelligence, computer science, and we should be aware of why we need it. It's extremely important. So to conclude, I'll talk about death. Death is the only certainty in one's life. Only certainty is death. But there are 3 times when a human being dies before coming face to face with his or her own natural death. What are these 3 types. The first death is the time when we reflect on when we could have made a difference with our intervention and our initiative, and yet we did not. Voltaire once said, "Every man is guilty of all the good he did not do." Ask yourself this question. In one situation, so many times you say, "Oh, maybe I can help," but you did not. You suppress yourself. That's the first death. The second death is death of one's spirit. Norman Cousins once said, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us when we live." This enthusiasm, this energy, this ability to do things, as soon as that goes, you are dead. That's the second death. Cynicism. Everything is bad. Nothing is working. Death. The third death is cultivating indifference. इसमें मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? ये तो पता नहीं हो रहा है. मैं तो छोटा सा हूँ. मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? Learned helplessness is when persons believe that the choices they have made have had no effect on the outcomes in their lives or in other people's lives. These are the three deaths. One is when we could have made a difference. The second death is enthusiasm, losing enthusiasm. And the third is cultivating indifference or learned helplessness. So, hope and enthusiasm can be powerful forces. Every day tell yourself, since this is the day when what I have planned to do, and the opportunity is presenting itself, this will be my destiny. And then work hard to fulfill that destiny. Suddenly and magically you will discover that the whole universe will conspire to bestow upon you what you thought to be your most unattainable dreams. Please do remember this all your life. Maintaining optimism and enthusiasm, even in the midst of extreme adversity, is the key to success. So, I was in Visakhapatnam, and I was in my hotel room, and I was focusing on these beautiful boats in that blue sea. I said, how beautiful they are. And I took this photograph with my mobile phone. And then I left it. And then when I came back, I again looked at my photographs, and then I enlarged it. And lo and behold, there was this big ship which was much bigger than these small boats which were in the front. So coming back to the BMOC, you must understand that 90% of what you actually should know are the BMOCs, or that big boat in the backside, the fogs, behind the fogs. And you are not even aware of them. Nobody teaches you those things. And you're only focused on these small boats here, will just go away after some time. So thank you so much for your kind attention. I'm grateful.
Now you would all agree that we had a fantastic session, and I could conclude it by saying that we had great food for thought and that we have another food waiting for us. I could conclude it like that, but I can't conclude it like that. I have to say a few words because of three reasons. One, that it is in the program that I would conclude the session. Second, that I have the responsibility to give response. And the third aspect is that I would not get my honorarium check from DST unless I do this. So I would do all three of this stuff here. So let me first come to what Shashi Vampati ji said about AI. So there were concerns about safety of AI. The citizen acceptance of AI is far ahead of what's happening in industry or even government and everywhere else. What about the regulation? It has to be light touch. And of course, large language models have biases, and they must have Indian context. That is fairly clear. And then machine translation could be a big boon for a country like India. India needs its own foundational models. India supplies a whole lot of data, but who's making all the money with that data? AI is for our aspirational India. AI is for research. How should you prepare for AI, transition to AI world and research? And the human progress is exponential, is going very fast. So basically, idea is like this. Look, technology today is exponential, but the response of human brain and society is linear with a small slope. So that would pretty much sum up actually the challenges that we are up against when we look at AI. Because society is sluggish. Every time I tell somebody in my office we'll change something, they would come up with 100 reasons for not doing it. In fact, last time I said, look, in all our conferences, we start with Saraswati Vandana, but really we all want money, right? So why don't we also put Lakshmi together with Saraswati? And people were so offended with this thought. But it's obvious that this is a good thought, okay? And then, of course, we talked about, we said that then Dr. Sanjay Bihari, he talked about, that we should have people who got different ideas, diversity. Of course, we tolerate people who have different ideas. Of course, they are wrong if their ideas are not same as mine. That's true, no? Okay, so I'll quickly summarize what Dr. Sanjay Bihari said. Oh, by the way, it was a very light-hearted lecture, which was very good. He's from Rajasthan, but his name is Bihari. So how do you explain that? I mean, Okay. So he said, look, try new things. This is what I call panga in Hindi. Try new things, disrupt things, not always be, don't be afraid of failure and stuff like that, which is very good. Communication is the key. And he illustrated that, and collaboration illustrated with 7 feras, and also the meaning of namaskar, 7 feras. Oh, and also 7 feras, one of them is that you stay forever together, right? For 7, next 7 lives or stuff, no? Not everybody is happy with that part of the fera, let me tell you that. Okay, I know that. I asked my spouse. Okay, then there's a, okay, namaskar, divinity in you. I totally agree with that. People who don't respect themselves cannot respect others. That's fairly clear. And okay, nuances of publication are very important. They're very important. How do you present the stuff? Circle of influence. How do you, diversify it many different ways so that your circle of influence and impact increases? And then the conflicts at workplace should be resolved effectively using proper protocols. Maintaining equipment is essential. Enthusiasm and initiatives are extremely important. Then, of course, the relevance of Indian music for brain surgery. There's a first, very important thing that I learned. Are you listening to music while going in there? Okay, very good. I feel very comforted with that thought. Okay, and then you be prepared for unexpected. People think differently. We should, interact with them. Oh, and I was very, very impressed with this teacher who does not understand the second law of thermodynamics. He was described as a stupid fool. I was wondering, what does it mean? Is it double stupid or double fool? A stupid fool. The first time I heard that stuff is very impressive. Then he said, oh, you should publish blah, blah in Journal of Nonsense. He gave 3 examples of that. Okay, I am not totally agree with that, but anyway, I think this is good. Then he showed like 2 pictures. One of them was a beauty queen. The other one was a natural beauty. And he said, which one is better? Okay. So he said, well, you need to dress up beauty in a particular way to make it presentable. But there's another perspective on that. We must also worry about sustainability. So the natural beauty and the plastic beauty, they differ in their sustainability aspects, right? Natural beauty looks like that 24 hours a day, very sustainable beauty. Okay, the other one is made up for 2 hours, okay. Image manipulation is all wrong, but you see that this was an example of image manipulation, right? So we don't want any image manipulation. And Collaborate D of your paper, that's so important. Okay, I got that. And finally, it was pointed out that one thing certain in life is death. But I would add to that tax. There are 2 things which are certain in life, tax and death. right? And I'm so happy that this year's budget, reduced taxes for us. So I think, death may still be somewhat in the future, but taxes are going to impact us immediately. And thank you very much, both of you, for bringing, your wisdom to here. And there are lots of younger people there. I'm sure that they totally enjoyed and became very wise after hearing these lectures. So I wish you all the very best in this journey of wisdom that will go from lecture to lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for summing up the key takeaways for today's discussions. To express our heartfelt appreciation for the invaluable contributions of the speaker, we will now felicitate our distinguished speakers. I request Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Head NCSTC DST, to kindly do the honors, please. Shri Shashi S. Vempati ji. Professor Sanjay Bihari ji. Thank you, ma'am. I invite the members of NCSTC division to please join us on the stage for a group photograph after this. With this, we conclude our formal sessions for National Science Day lectures. We extend our gratitude to all our esteemed guests, speakers, and participants for joining us today and making this event a grand success. I request all of you to please collect your certificates from the reception. And now we invite you all for the lunch outside. Yeah, thank you.